deep insights on personal transformation on the show today with Robin Jelinek and her spiritual mob, her spiritual team, Athena in Truth. We're going to get into it in a big way today, talking about who we are as extensions of the source and what's possible and healing. And I actually have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're going to go there. Stay tuned. It's going to be great.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain, awakening and expanding consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio, touching around 120 countries. We are streaming on 8 platforms. And we're going deep today. We're going into the channeling. Is it channeling? Are we all channeling with the fabulous Robin Jelinek? Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
We've been chatting for, I say this every show because I get people to come on at least half an hour before just in case there are any no-shows or tech problems. And then when there's no shows or tech problems, we just chat. So we've already done the show, haven't we?
We have.
We'll have to repeat it all for you all over again. We've had a lovely conversation. And there's Shirley who says, hello, Robin, Karen, fellow listeners from Ontario, Canada. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Robin, but I don't know too much about her personal story. So as I said, deep insights on personal transformation we're going to explore today, and the ascension and the new earth and I don't know, all sorts of wonderful things. But I want to also hear Robin's story of her personal transformation. So Robin Jelinek is a spiritual channeler and the voice behind Athena in Truth, a channeled entity or entities offering deep insights on personal transformation, relationships, wealth, and spiritual growth. Robin was first a wife, a mother, and now a channeler. She doesn't view herself as gifted or higher because information flows through her. She's a vessel of truth, she says, simply a vessel of truth, which we all are in many ways if we own it. She does her best to share the information with others, removing herself from the delivery and outcome. In this way, the information being brought forth can be pure spirit. And for over 40 years, Robin pursued a greater meaning to life. She studied metaphysics, spirituality in greater depth, especially after her kids had grown and moved out of the house. And about 20 years ago, she experienced a Kundalini awakening, a rare, almost out-of-body experience. It's an experience that people have spontaneously, supposedly spent entire lifetimes trying to achieve. It was around this time that the group came knocking at Robin's door. But it took another 20 years for her to realize it. Robin, when did you come out as the channel and start really publicly doing this? How long ago?
Yeah, I would say it's been about 4 or 5 years now since I started.
So not long.
Since I became a channel.
Nice.
Definitely knew after that Kundalini awakening that something was in the works. But, a lot of things in spirituality are about timing, where are you at in your life and with your family and how is this going to work in with you?
I love this about you because you've had a life, you've had a family, and I suspect a career and everything. And it's kind of later in the game where you've come out with this exalted wisdom and you're brave enough to present it to the world on podcasts and you're on your own channel and write a book about it. And, sort of in the third act, late in the game, as they say, because I'm late in the game and I speak to a lot of people my generation who are really into this work, but they feel like they can't sort of come out publicly and share what they know. So I love that you have.
Yeah, in some sense, when you say that to me, I think it's not really me doing it. I feel like there's this source part of me, or something that wills me, if you will, to share and to move forward in that direction. I don't know that if me as Robin, I said to my husband the other day, you know, there's another part of us that we didn't really understand or know. And that's the part that's really doing everything. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, that's the part that's running the show. Running the show.
Mhm.
Robin's got a book out, Choose Your Universe, and Exercise in Freedom is a guide for people who wish to uncover their true nature and become who they are meant to be. And your website is athenaintruth.com. Yeah, so let's, what did you do like work-wise before you were a wife and a mother? What were you like, what was your career choice?
Yeah. Well, my husband and I met at the age of 13. I think that's a story I've
Oh,
far too many
wow.
times. I was in junior high, and our classes switched, and he came walking in, and I think that's the first time I heard what I would call a voice outside of myself say, "There's your husband. Take a good look at him." And in fact, he
Wow.
sat down in front of me, and being the little girl that I was and not knowing any better, I tapped him on the back and said, "You and I are going to get married someday." Of course, he had this mortified look on his face at, just being 13 years old, wasn't really expecting that. But in fact, that's what happened. We were inseparable pretty much from that moment on, and we dated all through junior high, high school. We didn't go to college. We started our own water well drilling business. My father was a well driller, so my husband now, Dave, learned to drill water wells from my father. Worked with him, when he was like 16 to 20 some years old, and we ended up starting our own water well drilling business. So I worked alongside of him in that, and we had our children together and lived in the small town of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, where I grew up, and that's pretty much all of it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's truly amazing. 13. Yeah, that's so not my story. Wow, that is so cool. My
Mhm.
daughter met a gorgeous man when she was at high school. She pegged him. I remember of all the beautiful boys at her high school, she pegged this little boy. She said, "That's the one for me." And they got together. And I thought that that would happen to them, but it didn't. He
Oh,
was such a beautiful boy. Anyway, I won't go into that. Okay, so when did spirituality come a knocking? Did you grow up in sort of Bible Belt? Like, was the whole religious thing
no,
big where
I
you were?
I think, we dabbled in church once in a while. My mom took me a few times, when we were little. She used to like to sing in the choir, actually, at a Catholic church, but we never really attended that much. Maybe I went a number of times, but it was never really a big part of my life, I would say. Somehow, I don't remember. I think what happened was, now I'm thinking back, my husband and I were on a drive out of town, and we stopped at a bookstore, and I was looking to pick up something to read in the car on the drive that we were going, and I was getting a coffee at a Barnes and Noble, and I looked down, and there was a small paperback book that said, "You're not who you think you are," or something like this, and it was really about spirituality and about this other side of yourself. And I remember skimming. I didn't buy the book, but I was skimming over it, and it kind of sparked my interest. And so I would say after that, I started pursuing other reading material that was along those lines. And before you know it, I just became insatiable. Every book that I could read on, whether it was a Chandler or spiritual teaching, whatever it was, I was interested in it. And I would say over the next 20 years, till I was in my early 40s, I had literally read hundreds of books and continued to practice and study and read more and more. I just couldn't get enough of it. And then in my early 40s, I had the Kundalini rising. And that's something I've talked about in a lot of interviews that I've had, which was a very dramatic, life-changing event that I would say left me changed. There's no going back from something like that and not believing that you're something other than the human that you are. It changes you. So I had that experience and kind of went through that over the next 20 years. Fast forwarding to about 4 or 5 years ago, when I became a channel, started to have bodily movements and things happening that I didn't really understand or know what they were at the time. And pretty much in short amount of time, the speaking began and the channeling began, and it turned into being the work that I do. Having that Kundalini rising when I was younger brought with it a lot of varied experiences. I had a partial rising, so it didn't go all the way to the top, and it created a dark night of the soul. I had a couple of difficult years navigating that energy and understanding it. And again, that sent me into more reading and more studying and more trying to understand what it was that was happening to me. My whole life flattened out. I just didn't feel the same about things that I used to love to do. Friendships kind of didn't hold the same interest in a lot of them. And so there were a lot of changes that happened because of that Kundalini awakening. And so that went on over a period of 20 years, I would say. And, at the time I didn't know why it was happening, but now that's actually what I do for my work. I assist other people in awakening their Kundalini, help them navigate problems or situations that come up for them if they've had a spontaneous rise. And that would be one that came, maybe they were doing some focus and not expecting it to happen and had not done a lot of work on themselves, and therefore find themselves with their really upset, lots of energy coming up from their energy centers that they didn't know was in there. So I do now activations with people. I do group activations on my website monthly, and that's become a big part of my practice.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, the Kundalini. It's different for a lot of people. I've spoken to a lot of people about their Kundalini experience. I can't actually say that I remember having one like bang experience that changed my life. I think it was a slow burn for me. I don't know. But yeah, everyone has a different experience with the Kundalini. And now there's so many people out there like you who people are seeking it, and they're wanting that activation of their Kundalini, which years ago, I don't even think people knew what it was. But there's a guy, an Australian Japanese guy, who has his business called CAP, Kundalini Activation Process, CAP. So he gets people lying down and practitioners activate people's Kundalini. It's very interesting. I've done a few CAPs. It's very interesting. But yeah, it's amazing how people are seeking it now. So what did yours look like physically? Like, were you having, like, I can't put words in you, but what did it feel like physically?
Well,
how did you know it was a Kundalini awakening?
Well, I was intentionally doing some breath work. I was doing. Yeah, I definitely, anyone on a spiritual path who has awareness of Kundalini energy already has some of that energy leaking into their center. So that's what's giving them spiritual thirst. That's what's actually precipitating that drive, that insatiable need to learn more, get more spirituality. So I already was well aware of Kundalini. I think in some sense, a lot of people know that this is their path. They already have an understanding. They're not quite sure how to get there. So they end up meeting like me or someone else like me that has been through that process. So, I just remember, it was, for me, there was some pain involved. There was some noise. There was a lot of bodily sensations. I was pinned to the bed. I couldn't move. I mean, there was so many bells and whistles going off that I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it was something that left you changed. It's something that you just knew that life was never going to be believed about in the same way again after I had that experience. It took quite a while to acclimate that energy. I think the frequency of it, it created for me a lot of upheaval of emotion, a lot of things that were in my energy centers, a lot of sadness. There's just an outpouring, quite honestly, that energy, it reminds me a little bit of the Shiva energy. It's not really forgiving. It's kind of like it has a destination or an object, a goal in mind, and that goal is to open you up. And if you invite that energy in and you're not ready for it, it's just going to blow right through you and open up all your energy centers, and everything that you hold is going to come pouring out for you to look at it. And it's not all, I don't like to scare people, but it can be a difficult process if you're unprepared for it.
So what do you think a Kundalini activation does to the physical and energetic bodies?
Yeah.
What does it do? And your DNA structure, what do you think it's doing to us?
Yeah. Well, what I do in a Kundalini activation is I go through a description of what each energy center represents. So we go through each one of the energy centers and we get a feel for how all areas of the client's life is going. How's it going for you? Because we know that if they were not holding any energy in those centers, it would be going very well in all areas. And if it's not, it's because they contain some perceptions and beliefs, whether it's about themselves or others, that's actually stuck in those energy centers, and it's bringing mirrored results to them. So they're getting reflections from the universe about themselves, about how they're creating, what it is that they're holding. The universe is not punishing you. It's not trying to make you suffer. It's trying to deliver to you. So in every moment of every day, that universal part of you is coming towards you and trying to bring you some very nice things that have been formed by all the things that you have emitted emotion to it about. And so when it enters your field or it gets near you, it's a stimulant. And so the emotions that you are holding are going to start to express. So you're going to start to see mirrored results of what you're holding that are denying what the universe is holding that it would like to deliver to you. That's all that's going on. And a lot of people don't understand that suffering is a call to heal. It's not a call to suffer or to punish you. It's a call to let you know this is what you've got contained within you that's denying what the universe holds for you. That's actually what's going on. And the Kundalini
showing you.
Showing it to you.
Showing you where your resistance is. Sorry, I'm just looking out the window and there's this massive rainbow. Oh wow. So amazing. So go on. It's actually a double rainbow. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So the energy is really just trying to assist you on opening up, on letting go so that it can flow through you, so that it can actually deliver to you the very nice things that, the universe wants you to have.
It's activating your DNA. It's like bringing more DNA online.
Well, I do apply a lot of light language during those exchanges, and it's a very high frequency. It's kind of the difference between having your computer on Wi-Fi or having it directly plugged in. It's a very high frequency transmission that comes. So oftentimes when I'm in a session with a client and we come across some emotion that they believe in or that they're perceiving and it's stuck in them, that light language will come out. It's an assistive tool. There are a lot of tears. Light language just makes people cry. I don't know why. Finally, I just typed on the internet, why is everybody crying in my sessions now? That light language is being applied. It just loosens everything up. Really underneath every negativity, there's sadness. I mean, that's really what's there under jealousy, under rage, under anger, under all of those things. There's a very deep sadness that's there. And I think that's why that's one of the emotions that most prevalently comes up when light language is exchanged with them.
Yeah, it's cool that you're doing light language. But going back to what I'm trying to, just give people an understanding of what Kundalini energy does and what it looks like. So it can look like pain. It can look like
I hate to say
pain.
It's a piercing of, it almost seems as though there is a barrier or something that is in there between the energy centers. And so when that energy takes off, it hits that barrier, it pierces that
Hits
open.
the barrier.
Yeah,
It
so
activates your DNA. So basically, it brings you more online and in alignment with your true nature and your psychic abilities. Like everyone, I was watching something on Netflix recently and they had this word necromancy. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I looked it up and it's basically an old-fashioned word saying that anyone that's psychic or can speak to the dead is practicing necromancy. And I'm like, oh my God, like what superstition? Like we've made our natural ability to communicate with our higher self or God or nature or spirit guides, we've demonized it and like shrouded it in. Yeah, I was just blown away by that. But basically it gets people more online, more in contact with their psychic abilities, their telepathic abilities, their connection to source, their connection to their higher self. And changes the DNA and cellular structure of your body, right?
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that at the level that telepathy actually exists at, there's different emotions that are chosen there. It's a higher level of consciousness. So people can handle the truth. People can handle very direct communication, and telepathy can be exchanged through light language. People can speak light language to each other and then get a telepathic communication right afterwards by rising in consciousness to that level where that actually exists.
Moby's online. He's excited that you're here. He's joining a bit late. He's like, wow, I'm so excited. Robin is guest this week. He's a fan.
What's going to happen? I mistook telepathy for everybody knowing everything that you were thinking. It's still an exchange of intent. It's still a willingness to communicate. People aren't just coming in and eavesdropping in your mind everything that you're thinking and feeling. There will be an exchange, but you will be received in a knowingness rather than by words. So there'll never be a misunderstanding. Like with words, sometimes you can mistake something or think that, did they mean this or did they mean that? And you might take offense. But at the level of telepathy, there's never any offense taken. There's never any misunderstanding. When I get a telepathic communication, I don't get words. I get all of this light language speaking, and all of a sudden I just know. I just have a knowing. I know what was said, and I just tell people what was said. And at first I thought, how do I know this? How is this possible? It's because your consciousness shifts to a level, a frequency where that communication becomes possible. And what I'm told is we will all have this ability at some point.
Absolutely. Well, we've talked about telepathy pretty much every show for the last couple of months. I think because of the telepathy tapes. Have you heard of the telepathy tapes? I mention it every show. So the podcast, and it's time has come. Like, I was blown away that the subject of telepathy was creating so much traction in the world. It became the #1 podcast, overtook Joe Rogan. Like, most people want to talk about politics or some form of conspiracy. There's a lot of people out there that are up for that conversation, but not so many people up for the conversation of telepathy. So the fact that it's doing so well means people are listening to this stuff and they're interested in this. And yeah, that's a real sign that we're really moving forward in our human evolution.
It's true.
Yeah, it's exciting, but the way that the kids on the spectrum are communicating is just next level. It's absolutely next level. So how did your husband cope with the Kundalini experiences and what you were going through? Was he on the ride with you, or was he a bit confused about?
We're kind of an interesting combination. He's totally not weirded out by anything or put off by it. He's a very mechanical minded person, and he likes to do a lot of making furniture. He's making a 25-foot boat by himself right now. So he's a very hands-on, busy kind of person, and has a very mechanical mind. Let's use that. But he very much is very open and understands and believes, but he doesn't like spend all of his time reading and studying about it. It's not really, and in some sense, it's kind of good for me because I'm submersed in it quite a bit. But when I'm in my relationship, it's more just about he and I and what we enjoy. And it's not so much about spirituality, because quite honestly, sometimes you just need to take a break from it. You don't want that to be, I went through a period of time, maybe you can relate to this, where I thought it was everything. It's like morning till night, live, breathe, eat, and sleep it, thinking that somehow it was higher than or better than just being a human. And somewhere along the line, I've realized that, both are really important, and there's nothing up there and us down here. This is an integrated experience that we're having this with the universe as a whole. We're never separate, really. We are always connected. We might be getting notified when we're moving away from our universe by the way we're picking and choosing to feel. So we don't feel good when that happens, but we are always connected. We are always being offered that connection.
Yeah.
And so how did he handle it? Well, he's heard things from time to time. When the first Kundalini rising happened, he thought, what the hell was going on over there? He heard some noise. That first one, he was had quite a cold and he wasn't feeling well. So he didn't really want to make the effort, even though he heard the noise and could tell that I was, thrashing around a little bit. He didn't really bother to ask me what was going on. I actually didn't talk to him about it till the next morning. And I said, something really profound happened to me. And then I would say like a year and a half, 2 years later, because my Kundalini rising veered off to one side. I had a good blockage in my heart that stopped it from the full rise. And it veered off to the side. And then about 2 years later, it came down through the top of my head. I didn't even realize that that was possible. It felt like something clamped onto my head. It felt like a freight train entering. Felt like it broke through the crown. What made it familiar was that the spinning sound of the hummingbirds sounds like thousands of hummingbirds going, top spinning. You feel like a hot lava that washes through you. But I felt it break through there and kind of rush through the chest area. And that really kind of evened things out for me. Once that happened, my whole experience started to smooth out a little bit. I came out of what I would call a 2-year dark night of the soul that was enacted by that partial rising, where the energy didn't make it all the way up.
Did he come on the ride with the Dark Night of the Soul? Like, was he looking within and
Not really. No,
not really?
This is what's funny with, I'm just kind of a do-it-your-own kind of person, and so is he. There's no offense taken there or anything like that. I'm not the kind of person that really likes to share when I'm suffering. I just kind of take it on by myself, and I'd say he's pretty much the same way. He doesn't need any added misery from anyone else. But I would say it's not that I couldn't talk about it. Maybe I could have, but I just pretty much took it within myself. There was something in me that was grateful that it was happening when it did, because growing up, I felt like I was just a stable force for my kids. I wasn't really an overly emotional person, and I'm not like a yeller or like anyone that really exhibits a lot of ups and downs or things like that. And there was definitely within myself a lot of emotion, a lot of sadness, a lot of crying that I did by myself, a lot of just things coming up, and a lot of things not liking about myself, thinking that, here you are on the spiritual path and you're still doing this and you're still thinking that, and having a lot of condemning and judging of myself, which just made me suffer more. That's really what the dark night of the soul is. It's getting a view of yourself and not accepting it. It's getting what you're supposed to get. The Kundalini energy is here to light you up. It's here to show you where you're not loving yourself, where you're moving in ways that are creating separation from yourself. And so we get what we ask for, and then we hate ourselves in it. And that's really what causes the suffering. I would say it started to get better when I just started to surrender to the way that I felt and know that, you know what, I can't change that. I can't make myself feel differently than I did, living the life that I lived. And when I surrendered to that way of being, I just all of a sudden noticed an uptick in the way that I felt. And I thought, oh, I guess, accepting
Acceptance.
myself and having a little compassion and understanding that, I have these ways about me and I have these beliefs in me, and this is just the way that I am. And I'm just noticing them. I'm not attaching to them. I'm not becoming them. I'm not haranguing myself day and night to get rid of them. And that's when things started to really go in a good direction.
Absolutely. I've spoken to so many clients over the years that have spent years trying to heal themselves and fix themselves because, like you, stuff arises, the not enoughness, the unworthiness stuff, the failure stuff, stuff arises, and like I have to heal myself instead of just accepting it. Because I know that so many light workers, and I say this often on the show, they're carrying the traumas on their DNA of generations.
Yes.
Like I had this conversation with my daughter who's never failed at anything, and yet she has this failure complex. And I said, do you think that maybe you're carrying, because the father has the failure complex, do you think maybe you're carrying a thought form that's actually not even yours, and but you're identifying it as you? And when you can be grateful, I was talking to a friend the other day who's like, and a lot of my friends say this who are in the Jewish community, I'm carrying the traumas of the Holocaust. I'm carrying the traumas, and there are so many of our groups of people, like women carrying traumas of being a woman, or like we're carrying these traumas. It's a gift. It's an honor to carry those traumas, and as a light worker to be able to accept them and love them and release them instead of trying to fix them or heal them or resist them or make them wrong. Yeah, and that acceptance is just the best thing. It's the best thing. We've got a few people. What's she saying here? Leah and Alison are online. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you both. Thank you, darling. What is she saying here? I heard that DNA is changing as we learn, regenerate. What's that say? How? I think that's supposed to how to regenerate. So typo. Yeah. Yeah. When you're talking about the crown chakra, Rob and I were chatting before the show, and she was saying, when did I know I was channeling? And I was trying to think, and it was during a massage session with a Hollywood movie star, and my head started to, like, you said something like you felt like you had a clamp on your head. Mine was the opposite. Mine felt like I'd asked the question. She'd had a picture of a guru, a long-haired guru, Indian guru. And I thought to myself, what is this Indian guru thing all about? Like, that was the question I asked. And my head started to expand. It was physical. It was visceral. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had, where I felt like my head was physically expanding, and it was basically the crown chakra opening, but it felt physical. It was such a weird experience. And yeah, they started funneling this information that I said to this woman, and I couldn't stop it. It was like a train that didn't have brakes. But afterwards, I had a headache for 3 days because my poor old body wasn't acclimated to the amount of energy that was flowing through me at that time. So yeah, there is an acclimation to allow that sort of energy to flow through you. Like, you have to do the process. But
I mean, for me in the beginning, when it first started, there were a lot of mudras and a lot of kriyas. So I had, if anyone doesn't know what kriyas are, it's just your body moving in all kinds of positions and yogic positions, even though you've never done them. Same with your hands. There's lots of mudras that go over and over all over your body. And that went on for quite a while before I started channeling. And then I actually shared it with my son, and he's the one that asked. He goes, well, something's in there. Why don't you come out and talk? Because obviously there's something happening here.
Cute.
And that's when it actually started. And that entire weekend, and even that probably a good month, there was a lot of heat. Like I remember just sweating through my clothes, like everything, and a lot of pressure in the voice box that was very uncomfortable. I felt like, I don't have a really loud voice. I'm not really one that's ever been able to yell. I don't have that ability, but when they channel, they can get way loud. I can have way more volume than what I would normally produce on my own. But there was a bumpy couple of months where I just felt like my life was never going to be the same. I felt like they were talking all the time. My husband was getting woke up in the middle of the night, and it just seemed like, what, this is not fun. This is like an invasion of everything. And then I finally made the statement, is this how it's going to be? This is like terrible. I mean, I can't get my laundry done or live my life. And then there was the knowingness, or the feeling that came over me. Well, if you'd quit thinking about us, we'd quit coming forward. Well, of course, when it happens, what are you going to do? You're thinking this is really weird, and you think about it constantly. So it's knocking at your door like day and night. And so now I would say that a number of years have gone by. I'll go on a 10-day trip and never think that I'm a channel, and they never come forward. They never
Fabulous.
come to me.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I get it. Yep. Yeah, you can turn it off and on and just be normal
minute I
human.
have a thought, they think that's an invitation. I could be at a party where there's people there that are not interested in anything like this at all, and I could have the
Yep.
thought, I wonder what they'd think, and all of a sudden I can feel, well, let's tell them, let's have a conversation. I'm like,
Yep.
"Ah, no, not now," but they're very thought provoked.
What I love about your process is the same with my process, because again, we talked about this before the show. Like owning that higher aspect of yourself. We can call it entity, we can call it being, we can give it a name, but really it's tapping into that higher aspect that we all are, right? That flow of consciousness, that flow of energy, flow of information, flow of infinite intelligence that has had experience. So you can tap into a past life, a future life, an ET. Like there are so many forms of consciousness, but ultimately we're one with all of it because we're one with source, right? And owning that as a part of who you are, and also owning that you're like this little human who worries and stresses and goes to parties and drinks and travel and wants to see things and go to the movies and talk with your girlfriends or whatever, like owning that human part of you alongside the greater part of you that has access to infinite intelligence. It's
Yeah,
kind of
and
cool to have those both.
what's really surprising to me is because I understand what people feel like when they're in a spiritual pursuit and they want to make connection, because I've been there and I went through that process. But you never really feel as spiritual sided as you do human sided. I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but there are still times when I don't even want to see myself channeling. Like I have a hard time um, surrendering and accepting that this is what I am now, or this is part of me. This is part of who I
That's
am.
who I am.
The human part seems so dominant or in place, if that makes any sense to you at all. I don't know if you've experienced it that way, but there are times where I just have to shake my head, especially when the light language came in. That was another
Yeah.
level. And I think now I know why it didn't come in on day one, because there's just no way that I could have, on top of everything else, channeling and having people have known me the way that I was, and now being a channel and dealing with all of that transition, to now come out and be babbling something in light language and then telling people what it was said after I did it. That would have just like put me right over the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the same experience as you, probably because I've been doing it a little longer.
Mhm.
It's so integrated. It's so integrated that I don't even call it channeling.
Mhm.
So I know that I'm given these ideas and I just speak them as through my personality. So I don't sort of compartmentalize it and say, okay, now I'm channeling. And I've noticed that you do that too. Like you'll be Robin and them simultaneously
Yeah,
as
I
you
mean,
have.
I definitely feel integrated. I know what you're saying in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
respect. But what I'm saying is there's parts of the Robin human, or the personality part of me, that once in a while wants to dig in and not, there's so much of you that dies off, honestly, in this process. But there are some things that just don't want to really let go, that can keep
I
you
see what you're saying.
going.
Yeah. But, at the same time, the higher self designed the personality ego. So there is no separation between human and spirit, because spirit designed this human experience. And, there are so many. I used to run a thing called the Academy of Light, where we had, it was sort of like the show. I would introduce a speaker each Monday, and she would talk or he would talk, and we'd do a meditation. It was a physical thing instead of on. And the person that was facilitating the Academy of Light, a lot of them used to say, I want to lay my ego at the foot of the guru. I want to get rid of my ego, like that human side. They're all trying to overcome their human side and be more spiritual and more divine and more perfect. But my guide said, well, this is how I understand it. It's like, I love her. Like, I love who she is, that actress on the stage, that human ego, that humanness. I love that she worries and upsets and frets and doubts, but I don't see her as the true me, but she's my creation. And I love her.
My group describes the ego as a state of being in the 3 lower energy centers, basically. And I could let them come in. They'd probably describe it better than me. If that is acceptable with you, I'll just let them
go for it. Go for it. Bring in the mob, the Athena mob.
Yeah, we are excited to be here today. Yeah, a lot of people come to us and they would like to abandon their ego, get rid of it. They think it's a bad thing. And we tell you it is a survival thing. It's something that is in place because it is needed. When a human is contained in the 3 lower energy centers, where there is not enough, there is lust, there is jealousy, rage, anger, survival type emotions. That's the basic 3rd dimensional reality that you are a part of. Not to say that there isn't some good things. There is, yeah. But there are a lot of negativities or a lot of things that are lower tone emotions. And that really comes because the human is based in the 3 lower energy centers. Some people say, well, why do I come into my experience knowing nothing? Why am I in this forgetfulness state? What kind of a game is this that is being played on me? And we would tell you there's no game being played. There's too much energy coming into the dense realm that you are entering. And so therefore it is folded up and placed at the bottom of the spine until you make room for it, until you have enough life experience, until you experience yourself in many different ways and start to allow that energy to rise up beyond the 3 lower energy centers into the heart center, where one starts to be connected to the upper realms of consciousness, or where there are higher vibratory feelings and emotions. And the human starts to discover themselves. They start to realize that they are the creators of their experience based upon how they think and how they feel. And that starts to open up the heart center, takes some pressure off of that pressurized kundalini at the base of the spine, and allows a little bit more of it to leak up and start coming up. And eventually, as the pressure is released enough, you take off enough of the negativity, enough of the layers of beliefs and perceptions that are contained in those energy centers, and that thing just pops like a jack in a box and rises up. Problem is, you can't put it back. Many people come to us and say, I'm suffering. I do not like it since this has come forward. I'm not having as much fun. I don't love the same things that I used to. My life's become kind of flat. There is a dying off period. There is a period of rediscovery of oneself in what it is that they believe, what it is that they perceive. And it can be determined to be a negative time or one that is a darker time, as it is depicted as the dark night of the soul. But once you start to allow, once you start to believe that this is a process that you have invited, this is something that you have called for in your experience, so that you may become more enlightened, more light getting into the being. It's not a big deal. It's a human opening up their field enough that the divinity part of them that is always there has more room to flow through them. That's what's actually occurring. So enlightenment is more light entering the field, isn't it? And that is allowed by you, isn't it? It's not that someone's higher than or better than. It means that they have discovered something within themselves that they love, and therefore likened themselves to their source. And then the flow of that energy just starts to come in, you see.
Yes, beautiful. I do see. We do see. I hope everybody else sees too. And those that are listening online, hello everyone. Remember, if you want to ask some questions to the Athena and Truth Mob, please do. So, but what we're saying is like being rooted in the lower chakras. And those lower chakras can be energies of survival and what was the other ones that you said? Survival and
jealousy, rage,
I don't know, lust, jealousy, right?
Not enoughness.
But they would be when the energy centers is not integrated with the whole being, because those energy centers also represent groundedness, feeling connected to the earth and to the planet. I mean, they're not just negative energy centers.
No,
Because I have a friend, we were talking about the language of light, you know, the first, well, not the first, but one of the first people I knew intimately that channeled the language of light. She was very up in the higher chakras, but not grounded. And her physical body suffered, and not grounded at all. And so she'd sort of brought her energy up to the higher centers, but sort of neglected the lower ones. And so there wasn't this balance or full integration. So they all need to be spinning the vortex,
but primarily when the ego is really in place in a way that people depict it as being negative, it's because they're really contained down in those 3 lower energy centers. They really hold some beliefs and perceptions that they need to struggle, they need to effort, they need to compete, they need to hang on to their love, or someone else is going to take it. So there's all of these perceptions and beliefs that are holding them in that dense reality, really, and that the ego is need for survival. I mean, when you have that kind of belief system, you do have to work hard, you do have to effort, and you do need to protect against someone stealing your mate, because everything that you believe leans into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, beautiful. Okay, well, where were we going with this conversation? There are no questions online yet. Haven't you got any questions? Here we go. Here's Moby. I think it's more of a when I started my spiritual awakening, the goddess figure kept appearing. We were mostly taught universe is God, so that was new. I was wondering, especially with Athena, how you define, understand goddess. What an interesting question, Moby. Great question. Yeah.
Well, we might as well describe that, because it's not a question Robin's going to be able to answer. Basically, it is our perception or belief, and perhaps you could collaborate or not with us, that a channeler attracts unto themselves even the channeling experience. In Robin's case, she was calling out for more confidence, something that was missing, that she felt that she had reached the age of her early 60s and did not have, and was wanting. And so she sat down and asked the question, where's my confidence? When is it coming? I'm getting to the end of the tennis grip. She was a tennis player at the time, and don't have a lot of time to experience myself that way. And I would like to feel what it feels like to be confident. And that is when she entered into a stream of consciousness, of which the goddess of Athena in truth was a part of, you see. And so as we drew the breath into her and she threw her head back, she felt the power or the confident feeling, one that she had never felt before. And so that made me a match to her, or us, the entities that are channeling through her, in a satisfying way, in a complete way, and in a loving way. And so we tell people who are very interested in becoming channelers to ask themselves, what is it that would be satisfying to you in that experience? Why is it that you are calling for it? What is it that would make you feel in a way that you are desiring to feel? And for Robin, it was confidence. And maybe we could ask you the question, can you relate to that at all? Was there any feeling that was satisfied in you in becoming, we know you don't like to use the word channeling, but in becoming a communicator with yourself? Let's use that term.
Oh, I love that term, becoming a communicator with yourself. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So you were in your early 60s and you felt like, I love that. And you felt like, why aren't I as confident as I should be, of a woman in their 60s? Yeah, because you think that with age, you're supposed to become more and more confident. So in your 60s, you were thinking, I don't have that confidence I want. And that summoned the Athena energy. And do you think that it has that Athena sort of feminine quality, feminine name, that there was something there about empowering the feminine energy on earth?
It feels like the energy of a woman, but yet with the power of a man, that it is okay to be a female and be both powerful and soft at the same time. Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've always felt more male than female in this lifetime, because I've led so many male lifetimes. But coming in, I think that, coming in as a woman and empowering spirituality as a woman has been big for many women that are on the planet. Does Athena in truth want to say, because I mean, when I was in my early 30s and I was going to groups, it was only women that were seeking this information. Do you want to sort of say something about that, about why it was? It's different now, especially of the younger generation, but why was it the women?
It has just been more recently where the male energy is allowing males in general are getting more allowing of their emotionality. Some of that came with the need or the having to work alongside of their wife that was working, having to chaperone the children a little bit more. Yeah. So they had to open up that compassionate, loving, and feeling side of themselves. And along with that would come the spiritual pursuit or desire, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I was just having a conversation with my daughter this morning. She's just come back from a big festival. 6,000 people attended this festival, and her generation, well, the people that she hangs out with anyway, like all the boys want to sit down and get into the deep and meaningful conversations. I remember when I was young, I couldn't get a guy to talk about that stuff, you know. And it's so different with the younger generation. Yeah.
Yes, there are many that are coming in that are going to be influencing the spiritual development or the rise in consciousness. Let's use that term. Yeah. Mm.
When you say many coming in, many humans or many males?
Yes. Many more males are actually, and Robin's noticing it in her practice, that it is in the beginning, there were not near as many, and it is gradually picking up, and they're becoming younger and younger. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's that integration of what we call masculine, feminine energy, because it's really just one energy that we've compartmentalized as humans to explore in the male, female, but they're coming in more integrated. Is that what you're saying?
Define what you mean by integrated.
Their male and female side is more integrated. They're not dominated by
They're able to
testosterone.
express both sides equally. Yeah.
They're
And
expressing
not
both.
have it affect necessarily their sexuality or their expression as a man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many of the males of the past, we would say, if they were to express emotionally, it would demasculize them, or it would not be, it would make them look less powerful. Let's use that term.
Right.
They felt
Yeah.
as though they had to hold themselves in a position of power in order to be taken seriously, in order to protect the family, in order to be what it is that they were portraying themselves to be. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it hasn't always been there and that it wasn't bubbling or wanting to come up. It means that they suppressed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's so interesting because that still plays out on the world stage in politics. When you look at politics, it's male dominated, and yeah, to be touchy-feely and emotional, it's still not really seen as cool if you're going to be like a world leader or a politician. How do you see that changing in our now time? The integration of that male-female balance, because I've got a friend staying with me at the moment, and we were looking at politics, and I was saying to her, women need to run the world because the men, they just want to go to war, they just want to kill each other. But how do you see that changing in the future?
Yeah. Well, in order for women to find themselves in that position, it must happen also in many other places or across the board. It cannot just be in just a few. Let's use that term. Yeah. To be taken seriously and to be held in high regard, women need to be in a position of power, not just in one country, but in many. Yeah. And we see that eventually, as one gets in and more get in, that this eventually may lean itself or lend itself to heading into that direction. Yeah, we would say that. Everything in the world is being influenced by what it is that you are all calling for. What is it that you want to see in the world? You made a statement, didn't you, that you would like to see more women in power? All of you are in charge of that. All of you have the ability to lean into and have a desire for more women in power. It is something that is there for the taking. But what do you humans do? You ask, how's it going to happen? Where is it going to come from? Well, it's already been created in your world, in your universe. Did you know you're instantaneous creators? And that would include you. Yeah. The moment that you have a feeling or a desire for something, you have created the opportunity for it to arrive, for it to be shown to you. But if humans don't believe, If they can't perceive that this is possible, they can never pull it in. They can never actually have it materialize where they are if they don't believe that that is a possibility. We could tell you this, and many may not like it, but a lot of women just don't believe in it. A lot of women don't believe it's possible. A lot of women believe in discrimination. They believe in a lack of power. How can you find yourselves in a powerful position as you hold that view? But you all want to blame someone else, don't you? You want to think that someone else is the cause. You want to think that there is discrimination, that there's no way, that you can't get what it is that you are wanting to see in the world. If we asked every one of you, what is it that is preventing you from becoming what you want to see in the world, you would be given the answer just like that. You would say that men are in power. You would say that they are over the top of you. You would say that women are responsible for the children. The human would actually spill out or puke out everything that it's holding that's actually creating that environment, that's actually making that true. You see, you have to make it true. You have to decide within yourself what it is that you want to see in the world, and then you have to believe in it. You have to perceive it. You have to see yourselves the way the men see themselves. You are responsible, you see. What do you think of that?
Go girl, that's what I think of that. That's called confidence. Absolutely. So instead of complaining about what you're looking at the world stage, visualize what you want.
Absolutely. And believe in it. Perceive
I
it.
remember being upset about looking out onto the world stage and seeing politicians, especially down under. We're just about to head into our federal election. So we're supposedly electing a new leader of the country. And it's all men. We have had one female prime minister, and she was more ridiculed than any other prime minister. Because, you know, when you're a politician, they like to tell you what's wrong about you. But when you're a woman, not only is your policy wrong, but your hair is wrong, your clothes are wrong. Like, it's like women just got crucified. So we haven't had one since. But I remember sending out a prayer that I wish I could see a politician that talks about the issues and doesn't use their platform to tell you what's wrong with the other side. And I have seen that manifest in the world, like with one person. So yeah, like, make your prayers. What do you want to see? I want to see politicians, because at the moment, as we go through our federal election, all the ads, and we're bombarded with them, are the politicians telling you what's wrong with the other side. You know, let me put down the other side so that you'll think I'm great. It's like, that's so not the way.
Yeah, but the minute that you think that's so not the way, the minute that you are disgusted by what it is you are viewing, you are actually adding to the very thing that you do not want to see.
This is true. This is
As you
absolutely
see
true.
it, you are to use that as a leveraging point. You are
Yeah.
to push yourself off of it and say, thank you for showing me your view, because now I have another one.
But at the same time, when you send out a rocket of desire, as Esther would say, when you send out this is not what I want to see, on the other end of that is, well, what is it that you want to see? And so that activates.
This is not what I want to see. We did not. We said, I thank you for what I am seeing, what you are offering, because now it is clear to me what it is I prefer because of that.
Yeah.
So I am grateful. I'm appreciative.
So the desire is, you know, I look forward to the day where I see a politician, you know, state what they're going to do in the world without putting the other side down. You know,
We would tell you to forget about whether it's a male or female. We would tell you to intend for the best leader that you could ever possibly have. And forget about whether it is male or female. Because anything that is depicting male or female is going to come with an argument.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you need it to be a woman? Why can you not have a feeling?
Oh, no, I didn't say it needed to be a woman. I was just saying politician in general. Yeah, I was just talking about politician.
Not necessary to have a preference. You yourself said we all come from the same source. That includes a male and a female, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's male or female. That's some of the dogma still playing out. That's some of the perceptions and beliefs that hopefully are going to be ridded from the world. You want the best leader, the best person.
Yeah. So we look forward to the day when we have enlightened leaders. Yeah. At the same time, there is a thought that why look to the leaders to rule the world when we rule our own reality? So regardless of who is on the world
Well, there is
stage.
mass consciousness. There are those that are contributing by the way that they feel and view the world that are actually constructing the universe as a whole. And you get to decide as you focus on that universe as a whole, are you focusing positively or are you focusing oppositionally to what you are seeing? Because if you are oppositioning what you are seeing, you are actually increasing that negativity. But if you are focused in a way of intent, of in desire, then you are creating in that direction.
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
never going to stop mass consciousness. You're never going to stop the ads from going across your TV telling you what to watch out for. If you take this or that, you're going to get this or that. You can turn it off, but the damage is already done. Even if you are not actively listening, your recording device of your subconscious mind is gathering that information or that data. So there's no avoiding it, is there? There's no way around not being a part of the world as a whole. So some of that's going to leak in into your individual universe, and you will experience it to the degree that you focus on it. But if, let's just say 75-25, if you can at least take 75% of your consciousness and focus it in a direction that you prefer, that you want to see in the world, and you give up opposing, marching, protesting, and going against the things that you don't want to see, which you're actually expanding when you do that, because the way that you feel as you do it is not a positive way, it's a negative way. You're going to feel oppositional. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel justified. That isn't a good feeling when you are moving in that direction. You need to pay attention to how you feel when you make a choice to react. And if you are not feeling in a positive way, then you are reacting in a negative way. And then what will be created will be something in negativity, won't it?
Mhm, mhm.
Did that quiet the
Oh,
questions that were coming in?
I don't have any questions. I'm wondering if there are any questions coming from the people listening online. Do you have any questions that you want to pose to Athena in truth, or shall we get back to Robin and her story?
Sure, we can come back to me in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the point is we have way more control in feeling good, in deciding how it is that we want to see the world, instead of looking at things that are missing or that we think aren't right or aren't balanced. And we just kind of explode things without even knowing that we're doing it. And I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about the group that I channel, is they really make you aware that, you know, the direction that you're going with your consciousness means everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What's a question I wanted to ask? I was having a conversation with someone the other day, arguing for your limitations. Because, like you, Robin, I've been teaching this deliberate creation work. Well, I've been teaching it for around 25 years and channeling through my guides. And what I find is that you tell people that your vibration is everything. And when you feel good, you touch that part of yourself, which is your higher self. You have the ability to touch, you know, to be more acclimated, a vibrational match to your spirit guides, to your team, to your mob. And you also have, you know, you take that power back to manifest whatever you want to manifest. And so that manifesting that thought form and manifesting the emotion is really the most important part. And you tell people that and they go, oh, I totally get that. You feel good. Yeah. But then I want to justify why I feel bad. Like, let me argue for my limitation again, you know, because my ancestors did this and because I suffered this. And it's like they want to hang on to their story. And if you try and talk them out of their story, okay, let's find a way to feel good about that story. It's like, no, I want to justify why I feel bad. This is a conversation I have with a lot
Well,
of
I
people.
run into that too, but quite
Yeah.
honest, my group tells them they can have that story if they want it, and as long as they're consciously aware of it. There's a certain amount of consciousness that enters your field just by you being awake to what you're choosing to feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just too big of a leap or too much to ask that somebody gives up their story or gives up an emotion that they're really invested in. But if
Right.
they're at least aware of it, if you can at least say, you know what, you can have that, and you're justified in feeling that. You're sending out a signal. You don't have to attach to it and become it. You might feel that a little bit, but really, all you're doing is signaling in what you prefer. That's what you're really doing in the way that you're feeling. And so, you know, a lot of times when when you can't get around that, when you just allow them to have what it is that they are actually feeling, it releases, because some consciousness gets in by them being conscious. A lot of
Yeah.
people will ask, how do I become more spiritually connected? How do I get introduced to that divinity aspect of myself? And it's through awakeness. It's through just being aware. That's what opens you to the divine. The unconscious is the human stuck in suffering. It's stuck in its experience and it has no idea why it's suffering. In consciousness, I'm in the I am presence. I know I'm creating. I am angry right now. I am jealous, and I am attaching to my lineage as the reason for how I feel. But now I'm claiming it, aren't I? That's a little bit different than blaming an outside cause. I am using that emotion. I'm owning it right now, and I'm creating with it. I'm dug into it. And that alone is enough to allow that divinity part to flow through. If you just allow them to have that, sometimes they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a beautiful example of this. It's a Byron Katie session. Do you know Byron Katie? Have you heard
Yes,
of the teacher?
I do.
Yeah. And it was back in 2016. When did Trump first get in? Was it 2016 when he first got in?
Well,
But
there
anyway, it was
4 years in between, and then
yeah.
now.
But the first time he got in, was that 16? Anyway, whenever it was,
Yeah.
and she had gone to a Byron Katie and she was so upset, so irate and upset. So there's this fabulous conversation between the two of them, and her talking about all the terrible things that Trump is going to do to the world and how it's going to affect her and her children and the planet. And she's so justifying her upset. And as she walks through the process with Katie, she realizes her upset is actually not about Trump.
Yeah.
It's about feeling unheard. It's
Mhm.
about feeling like people don't understand her suffering in a way that's in a way that feels real to her. And if she could complain louder, she would get more acceptance of her stuff. Like, she comes to this epiphany about what we're talking about
Mhm.
because she's got it all written down. And when she goes over it in her mind and she realizes that her outrage and her rage at this atrocious person being, president back then was actually nothing to do with him, to do with her feeling unheard about her suffering. She just has this moment where she just throws her hands up in the air and she goes, "Oh, this is all bullshit. I'm good, Katie." And she just lets it go. This second, she just lets it go.
Get up in the morning, and when your feet hit the ground, say to yourself, there's no outside cause for how I feel today. And that would include Trump.
Right.
Lose everything. You got those emotions in you already. They're being stimulated by what it is you're focused on. And once you can really accept that truth, that there is, we are sovereign creators. That means we're creating individually by ourselves. Now, there's a lot of people here, and you might think that they have something to do with you, but they really don't, unless you allow them to, unless you decide to emote because of what you think they're causing you to feel. But you would not have that person in front of you if you did not contain the emotion that matched the experience that you're getting. And, once you can really accept that, it doesn't mean you can't have the feeling, because sometimes I just feel like people need that. They need to be okay with not feeling okay. And that is okay. But to do it unconsciously and blame something outside of yourself is going to make you more and more uncomfortable. It's going to expand that energy so big that your life is going to become a living hell because of it. And there's just no way that you can decrease your amount of suffering believing in an outside cause.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever we're upset about, whether we attribute it to a politician or something that's happening outside of the world, it's always the story within us, right? It's always that personal story that is activated during the outside calls, as you call it. So, like, why am I so upset about this? What's going on with me? And when you clean all that up, you can watch the world stage and the atrocities, and you can see it as the dance, as the Leela, and not be activated because you're not carrying those.
Years ago, I used to wonder all the time. People would talk about the law of attraction and how, that person in front of you is likened to you. And I think, no, they're not. Maybe it's a really nasty person,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I didn't understand that they were activating my insecurity. They were activating things in me that I wasn't aware of. And I was always trying to figure out how am I like this person? I'm not even anything like them. But I realized the stimulant, it finally came to me. Oh, it's the stimulant. It's what's being stimulated in me by them that's actually likening me to them. And I think sometimes people don't get that. They don't really understand.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. We have to do a station ID break. You're listening to Accentuate the Positive Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain. And we are on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the world. And we are touching around 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms, including Roku, Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, and Facebook. And we've got no Roku. Normally we have some Roku comments, and we haven't got any Roku comments today. We've got a few, but everyone's mostly on YouTube today. But Moby says here that so real about arguing for your limitations. Lol. I'm definitely guilty of this. We are all guilty of that, Moby.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Yeah. It's like we want to justify. How we feel, why we feel bad, and give it a reason and tell people about it. But when you wake up to who you are as a deliberate creator, and this is what Athena and Truth would say, you realize that your story is not serving anyone. It's not serving the world, and it's not serving you. And you can argue for your unlimitedness, right? Your unlimitedness.
You know, it is a process, and oftentimes when I've been session, Athena has said to people, it is what it is till it isn't. I mean, this takes time. It's not something that you can command or demand. These changes come very subtly. They use the description of puberty. You know, you become a man or a woman. You don't say on Friday night, I want to wake up, a man or a woman. There's like a natural unfolding, like an evolution that occurs. There's stuff going on that we're not even noticing. And all of a sudden we think, wow, when did this happen? And your spiritual evolution of your soul is the same way. It's like you don't always see it day to day. You don't always see the progress, but I assure you it's going on in the background. And, even if you get a Kundalini awakening, a lot of people think when they feel the rise, like when I had that happen, I thought the same thing. I thought, oh, wow, I just had a Kundalini awakening. I'm awakened now. Not really. The 7 energy centers opened up and all the bells and whistles and the process begun, but it was 25 years of that energy going through, not just the 7 energy centers that I was aware of on the front of my human body, but there's 122 inside the body that are from your lineage, your past life. There's many different nadis in your nervous system that's all affected by your life experience. And that energy has to work its way very arduously through all of that revealing emotion. And I know we were talking, Karen, just before we started today, that these solar flares and the things that are going on the planet, they're an acceleration to the earth chakras, and they're accelerating our chakras. So anything that we're left inside of us that we thought we had worked on is getting spit out right now. I had another relapse of no confidence. I had another a couple of things come up that I had thought I had long dealt with. And I thought, what the hell is this coming now? Where is this coming from? And it was all around the time of those solar flares. It's an activating type thing. It's accelerating energy. It's speeding up the frequency, and anything that you have attached to you that's of a lower frequency is going to come flying off that muddy wheel.
Yeah. I love that image of the spinning, as your chakras, if you like, or your nadis or energy centers start to spin faster. Like it spins out anything that's not in alignment with it, any thought form or whatever you want to call it, density that you're holding in your DNA or your cells or your energetic body. It's spinning it out, and as it spins out, it kind of slaps you in the face. It's like you feel it as it leaves. It's like you feel that lack of confidence, or you feel that depression again. Like, God, I haven't felt depressed for like 10 years, and now I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling that lack of confidence that I dealt with, 15 years ago. Yeah, it's sort of.
A lot of people just don't realize that we are light beings. That's what we are. That we're actually, and we're denying light when we're holding negativity. We are actually denying the light from entering. So that being said, if we are light beings and we are creators, we can actually, through that understanding and through that new knowledge and wisdom, we can invite more energy in. We can manually bring energy in through our desire and our focus into our energy centers. We can command them to open. We can command them to close. All of these things work. We can actually speed up our own vibration through intent and desire by conducting energy, because that's what we are.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I went to a woman who was coaching, abundance, get over your abundance, about whatever. So my issue at the time was single mother, always struggling with money, and came from a wealthy family. By the time I was aware of money, my family had lost all their money, and so we were struggling. So I held this struggle in financial issues, which I think is rife across the planet, that sort of fear of survival. And I remember I was holding on, like just where we were talking about, I was arguing for my liberty and holding on to my story. And this poor woman was trying to coach me out of my story, and I'm holding on tight and I'm not letting it go. She said something to me really interesting. She said, how does having this story benefit you? Like, what are you getting from this story of feeling, like you're not worthy enough, or you can't attract money, or whatever story I had going on? And that was such a powerful question that it didn't change me overnight. But it was such a powerful question. Like, how is this story serving you? Like, because we want to hold on to it so tight. So in saying that, Desley's got a question here. The witch wound keeps women in fear of showing themselves and acknowledging the divine goddess. Witch wound, the witch wound. Is this a question, Desley, or a statement? The witch wound? I don't know. Anyway, do you have anything to say to that, Robin?
Well, I think she's probably referring to, women were looked at as witches, and it created a wound in consciousness, or in anyone that was maybe on a spiritual pursuit. And I think that's kind of what she's trying to say, that there's a wound created and makes them kind of deny their divinity, or the divine goddess part of themselves.
She's saying here, past life memories of being persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is another story that as women we can hold on to for feeling. Right. Yeah. And Athena would say that.
Well, I would say that, I look at negativity in a whole new way. I look at negativity as the truth which a human holds that denies the entrance of what we want to receive from the universe. That's what negativity is. And it's not coming up randomly. It's not something that should be denied. It's something that you actually contain in you that's creative, and that's why you're seeing it. I look at negativity as a call to heal. If I feel a negative emotion, I don't get upset with myself, and I don't become the emotion. I know that I have a place on my timeline where that emotion is still creative, where I'm still sending out a signal in the way that I feel, maybe as a child, whatever comes to me. But when I feel negative emotion, I immediately go to acknowledging it and accepting it and surrendering to it, not making it go away. I can tell you that's a big no-no. If you try to, for one thing, why try to make it go away? It's already gone out into creation. It's already been used to create something. And so that's like denying the human its free will, and you can't ever get away with that and feel good. So you really just have to surrender to what it is that you're feeling, accept it, knowingness that you are creating by the way that you feel, and you're allowed to feel all of the emotions. None of them are considered right or wrong, good or bad. Once you kind of give yourself that kind of permission, you do start to lift in consciousness. And so in a lift in consciousness, just so people are clear, this isn't coming through policing. This isn't coming from abstaining from your Friday night glass of wine and never saying a swear word. That's not where the lift of consciousness is coming from. I'm having both of those, by the way. It means that you start to accept and love yourself in the choice you're making, in the way that you're choosing to feel your experience, and the emotion you're using to create with. And in that acceptance and in that self-love, you start to lift up in your consciousness. You become likened to your source. And so the flow starts to reach you, and you start creating at a higher level. Up at the higher level of consciousness, the old emotions of jealousy, rage, anger, and all not enoughness, all of those types of things just don't exist. You're picking from a whole new pot at the higher level of consciousness. That's what actually happens.
Beautiful. Hey, Thirsty, thanks for tuning in. And thanks for your question, Desley. And Susan says here, she wants to, can you talk more about the sun, Earth becoming more active, impacting humanity energetically? I do want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about what your guides have said about disclosure. And I talk about disclosure, not just because there's lots of disclosure. There's disclosure of the, the criminality of our world, the covertness, but there's disclosure of ETs being, a reality, and there's also disclosure of as who we are as an extension of source energy, and that we are this infinite intelligence and we are psychic. There's a lot of disclosure that's going on, but maybe we'll talk about that after. We'll answer your question, Susan. Do you want to talk more about the sun and the earth becoming more active? A lot of people are talking about the event of mass solar ejection sort of taken out the grids. What has Athena and Truth said about all that?
I've posed that question to them quite a bit, and they're not really contributors of anything that might produce any type of a response that would lend itself to be fearful or something that people could worry about. And we are in control of what's coming, both from the earth, from the sun, and from the universe, based upon how we feel about it. So I think that in my depiction of what's been happening, the solar flares and the different changes that we've actually seen in the events that have been coming pretty regularly during this time are a lot of what they're talking about a light source entering. Now, whether or not there'll be 3 days of darkness and there'll be this big event that's going to occur is not something that's been disclosed to me or something that my group has really had a whole lot to say about. What they do say is that we are very resilient, capable. We are not to be fearful of anything. We are survivors. And if you look back through history and what we've been through, we've always come out, we've always survived it. And they don't see that anything that's coming that's going to be any different than that. So I think there are some fear-based things that I don't think it's intentional. I don't think people are necessarily trying to make people afraid. But I think it's important to remember that you want to feel good as much as you can in your experience. And if you're following something that doesn't give you a good feeling, then it's probably best that you take your focus off of that and go somewhere where you feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my guides have said similar, but they talk about timelines. They say that the probable timeline playing out, and that is a probable timeline that exists. What timeline do you want to be on? What, if that's an experience that you want to have. A lot of people do like this rescue thing. They like to rescue people. So being in a timeline where there is mass cataclysm and then you go out and rescue people, that's really beneficial for some people. Being in a timeline where the evolution of human consciousness and the ascension is more smooth and we just evolve, with all the light workers on the, that's whatever you prefer and whatever you put your focus on. Yeah. But Alison says here, what are you saying here, Dying One? Thank you, girls. I've been swinging like a pendulum for so many years, and this convo helps me confirms to me that my super seductive child wounds are clinging to the stories and are still not heard. Interesting.
Yeah.
And what has Athena, your mob, said about joining our galactic family and becoming a space race like humanity, becoming one with the cosmos? Have they said it? Has anyone posed that question to them? I'm sure you have.
Well, we pose it to them and see what happens. You never know.
Okay, let's pose it to them. What do they want to say?
You are all family. Does it surprise you that you probably all have been alien, that you have all expressed in multiple planes of existence, and many are going on right now, and that you could actually have contact with yourselves, that you could actually be speaking to other races, other what you call aliens, or other beings that are both focused physically and non-physically, that you are expressing in so many different ways that they are too many to ever number? Yeah.
And when do you see that it would become more in the collective consciousness, that the reality that we are connected to the cosmos, and that they will be, a part of the human society? When do you see that happening? Is that something that's really close, or is it like in the way distance? Or I know we're all creating it, but on the timeline we're on at the moment.
Some might call us alien. Some might call us galactic beings. If I am able to communicate the way that I am communicating right now, why would I get myself in a ship and try to head your direction? There are many higher levels of consciousness, which you would call alien or galactic beings, that are able to influence you through your consciousness. They are able to come through channel. They are able to influence people's consciousness without them even knowing it. So there are many ways to make contact or to be known upon Earth. Some are unknown, we would tell you. One thing is for sure, there's nothing with ill intent. There's nothing meaning to come to destroy or to cause problems. There's only meaning to come and help, to assist, to make better, to make new ways of compromise rather than repeating old ways of mistakes or things that have ended societies in the past. A long time ago in the past, everyone communicated both galactically from all different planets were interconnected or able to communicate the way that we are transmitting right now. Robin is not hearing words. She's just downloaded a knowingness. She just has an understanding of what it is that we are sending her through the signal or the frequency or the transmission that we are giving her. You're going to see this more and more. There's going to be more and more humans lighting up or connecting up to their light language, and they're going to be able to communicate with galactic beings and with other planets, and they're going to be able to understand and know what that exchange was. It's a natural process that's unfolding because of a rise in consciousness. The rise in consciousness is bringing you to a level of understanding, of knowingness that you did not before have access to, you see.
Yeah. I know what you're saying about if you're telepathically communicating with galactic consciousness, why do you need to have that physical experience, like get in a spaceship and come to Earth? Sai Baba said that to me when I was running the Academy of Light. They were like, oh, you have to go to India to meet the Guru, Sai Baba. And in one of our sound meditations one night, Sai Baba was present, standing in the middle of the room. And I said to him, oh, I've been told I need to go to India to meet you. And he said exactly the same thing. He said, I'm right here. Why bother getting on a plane, flying all the way to India? It's like, I'm right here. And, you know, I get that, but there's something to say about that visceral physical experience, like standing in front of a being from another planet that's maybe 10 foot tall, or a mantid being, or a grey that's 3 foot tall, and having that visceral physical exchange, you know, feeling that and having your body react to their physical, you know, there's something to be said about that, which would be, I find it exciting. Like, I think that would be exciting to meet beings from across the cosmos and have that
I'm not
physical.
denying that opportunity doesn't exist or that might not happen, but I think there's a much more likelihood of it happening if people are without fear, if people are open to that, receiving that without feeling threatened, and that's kind of what I'm getting. I don't think there's any threat energy or any type of ill will that's being intended towards us. It would be more of a help or a higher consciousness assistance in what direction is best to go in than it would be anything else.
Yeah, Moby says you want that physical experience too. Yeah, it makes sense to me that we'd look forward to a physical contact of our ET family. I mean, I know plenty of people, Moby, that have had that experience. I haven't. I mean, I have to say, I
actually saw a UFO many years ago when I was probably 20 years old. And my mother saw it repeatedly over her car, over the house. And in fact, the night that we called it in, that we saw it out the window, their whole switchboard was lit up. People were calling.
Nice.
Yeah. So I know they exist. I mean, I actually saw one. We laid in the bed and kept covering up our heads and peeking out, waiting for it to leave. Now, my husband at the time was out of town, and so was my dad. So I had stayed visiting my mother. We went and crawled upstairs on our bellies because we were afraid that somehow they were going to beam us up from the house just because we could see it out the window, and woke up my mother's brother and wife that were visiting from England at the time, and had them come down, and we were all covering our heads up in this bed, you know, looking out, waiting. And eventually it left, you know. I didn't see it leave. It must have happened between the covers going over our head and not, but there was no way any of us were going outside. But I think that, you know, there's been so much fear built up around it.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, the fear.
I didn't know anything about aliens, and I was scared to death.
Exactly. But that's a part of the collective consciousness. We've been programmed to fear them. Yeah. Because they've got so much to share with us, because they're so tapped in. Yeah. that
But the
fear
other
thing.
interesting thing, and I don't like making a lot of predictions, even though I hear sometimes, it's not something I really want to get into, and maybe it's not trusting enough. I'm not sure. But I don't think it's 100% peace in the whole universe either. I think there's contrast on a lot of these planets. I think there's fighting, there's warring, there's higher levels of consciousness, and maybe there's some planes that are beyond that. But I don't think that it doesn't exist. I think there's those types of things going on other places. Just
Well,
like
we
we have.
talk about that a lot on this show. It's kind of predominantly that conversation. The last couple of shows I had with Chris O'Connor, who was a part of the Secret Space program, and that was bizarre too. He's been out there in space, having physical experiences with other beings, and age regressed and time traveled, and whoa, his story is so out there. It's so fabulous. I love all that. Because like your guides and my guides have said that, you are the creator of your reality. I remember reading this in the Seth books when I was in my 20s. There are only two rules to life throughout the cosmos. One, you create your own reality, and two, there are no limits. So when we hear people's stories and like we feel like that's impossible, because in our paradigm it's impossible.
Yeah.
Who says it's impossible if there are no limits to what we can create? Because we are creators, right? We are the creative. So when I hear these stories, and it hits my what's the word, that wall of possibility inside my human brain, I go, oh really, that sounds ridiculous. The guides remind me that thought creates, and so anything is possible. Yeah.
I mean, you have to believe and perceive it in order to experience it. You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just, like me, I don't argue that fairies and some of this other stuff exists, but it's not really a thing for me. And I wouldn't say I don't believe in it, but I just kind of don't really have any interest or think about it. And therefore, I don't have any experience with it. But I have a lot of people who I would say are very truthful, that see fairies and different things all the time.
Well, I see them all the time.
So they just have more open belief system around that, or love of it, whichever one it is. They've got something going on where they permit the entrance of that consciousness. And that goes back to how I became a channeler, looking for confidence. There you go. You enter into something through your desire and your belief.
Through your desire, absolutely. Yeah, and just like the guide said, Athena and Truth said that, we keep coming to you because you keep thinking about us. It's like what you think about, you summon. And so I thought about fairies, and I read a book many years ago of a guy who was taken out of his physical body by a spirit guide, and he was taken to the Davic realms, where the different dimension where these beings exist in their physical form. And so I thought about it. And after I started thinking about it, I started seeing them with my physical outside eyes, not as form, but as light. Like I can distinguish spirit in the different qualities of light that I see with my outside eyes, with my physical eyes. Yeah. So what you think about, you create. Like, exactly. Yeah.
You do.
What you think about,
you're
you
that
create.
powerful. I mean, we don't really realize how we can invite something in, either knowingly or unknowingly,
Exactly.
through our focus, desire.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I mean,
focus on what you want.
And what are we? Molecules, energy. I don't know what the three elements are or whatever. It's not what you think you are, what you think you are. And then the spirit aspect is more your desire, your knowingness, that's so the spirit is, or God, or whatever you want to call it, that part of you is really the substance. It's really the creative part of you, where the human is more just made up of molecules and energy, and it's not what we give the value of it to. If it makes any sense.
Yeah. Diane, it's been so beautiful to chat with you today, and to hear you channel Athena in Truth. I think, did I ask you why that name came to you? Oh, that's not important. We were talking about that before, like names. We've got to find a name.
Their description of love is truth. Everybody wants the truth. And when you love someone, they deserve the truth. So that's really where that name came from. And if we're about to close here, if it's okay with you, they love to close with a love fest. They love to close with a light language transmission at the frequency of love.
We've got 2 minutes. Go for it.
Can you feel the appreciation, the gratitude, the love, how grateful we are for all of you that are there, that are experiencing life? Every one of you, we hope you are listening. You are worthy. You are expanding the universe. You are expanding yourselves. Take your arms and wrap them around yourself. Love yourselves. Permit yourselves to be connected to the divinity part that will guide you, protect you, and love you in your experience. It is our pleasure. Good day to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the beings that have come to be with us today. And thank you, Robin, for channeling them. And it's been beautiful and a pleasure. And if you want to find all Robin's links, if you go to the link under the YouTube or whatever platform you're listening to this on, Facebook, I've got a link to my website, and I have all Robin's links and her streaming on all the other platforms if you want to explore other platforms, her YouTube channel, her website. She's got Instagram, Facebook. You've got it all going on, and also a link to the book. It's been beautiful. Thanks again, Robin. And thanks everyone that has been listening and tuning in. Thanks for your questions. Thanks, Moby. Thanks, Shirley. Thank you both. Thanks, guys. It's been always a pleasure to present another show for you this week. Who we got? Oh, you know, when I showed up a few weeks ago and the guest didn't turn up? Okay. What's his name? Sean Clayton. He's coming on next week. He's beautiful, absolutely a beautiful spiritual teacher. So that was a first for me to show up to a live and have the guest not show up. But he was very apologetic and he said he'd love to come back on the show. So he's going to tune in next week. Got to go. Thanks, everybody. Big love to all of you. Catch you next time. Bye for now.